Starting the 1st of July, the government has made it mandatory to link your Aadhaar card and your PAN card. The government is doing this in a bid to discourage tax evasion.
The government has made it mandatory to link Aadhaar number with PAN with effect from 1st July 2017. Now, this linking is necessary in order to file income tax returns, opening of bank account and even financial transactions over 50,000 rupees. Now, if a person does not link the Aadhaar with PAN, the person's PAN will be considered invalid, making it difficult for any kind of transactions.
PAN number is with the government, and obviously the Aadhaar card number Aadhaar also is with the government. And linking together will save, because individuals have made PAN cards which are in double or triple, like a person has made 2 or 3 PAN cards, because there's lot of money and lot of subsidy which can be plugged, and which is very important for the country today.
मुझे तो नहीं लगता इतनी फैसिलिटीज या इतना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर अभी अवेलेबल है. मुझे लगता है काफी दिक्कत आएगी.
However, this blanket order would impact those who may have a PAN card but do not have an Aadhaar card. Taking cognizance, the Supreme Court recently said that linking is mandatory only for those who hold both the Aadhaar and the PAN card. The court granted partial relief to those people who don't have Aadhaar, saying that the government cannot scrap their PAN enrolment for the time being.
कुछ ना कुछ नया रूल्स आता है तो उसके लिए कुछ ना कुछ बेनिफिट्स होते हैं. मैं ये भी मानती हूँ कि कुछ ना कुछ नुकसान भी होते हैं, क्योंकि एकदम से कोई भी चेंज आना मतलब तो हार्मफुल होता ही है लोगों के लिए.
One ID or one number which is your identity, it will be good. It will help us.
नहीं, सबके पास कहाँ मिलेगा. 90% लोगों के पास मिलेगा, 10% लोगों के पास तो नहीं मिलेगा.
जो अभी इसके बारे में मतलब नहीं जानते हैं कि ये लिंक करना है या नहीं करना है, अगर करेंगे तो इससे क्या बेनिफिट होगा, अगर नहीं करेंगे तो इससे क्या प्रॉब्लम्स होंगी.
लोगों को एक बार अगर अच्छे से पता चल जाए तो कोई इशू नहीं है. ये बहुत अच्छी चीज़ है, होना चाहिए और लोगों को इसको टाइम निकाल के कराना चाहिए.
So starting the 1st of July, if you have an Aadhaar and PAN card and these are not linked, you could run the risk of your PAN card becoming invalid. This is according to both the Supreme Court and the Finance Ministry. However, tax experts hold a different point of view.
As of now, there is no such law which will invalidate your PAN card post 1st July. The law says that once government issues a notification and gives a date, and if you have not done the linkage by that date, then your PAN will become invalid.
So should Aadhaar be made compulsory? If your PAN card becomes invalid, how is it going to impact you? Mirror Now report.
This is the Urban Debate. You're watching Mirror. Now the question we're asking today, when the government put out a notification effectively saying that if you don't link your Aadhaar to your PAN card by the end of the week, which is the 1st of July, that your PAN card will become invalid. Now, there are so many questions that pop up on this notification. First of all, the automatic question will be, I need my PAN card to get my salary. I need my PAN card for my bank account to work. I need my PAN card for any transaction above a certain limit, if I want to make any sort of investment, and most importantly, in the month of July, to file my taxes. What do you mean my PAN card will become invalid? Is that even possible? Also, the second set of questions we must be asking is about the sanctity of the information right now under Aadhaar. We've had plenty of leaks. We've had plenty of compromises in the Aadhaar database. So while we were still talking about whether or not there is a compromise on privacy, whether the database is actually secure, is it fair for the government to come out and force us all to link our PAN cards to our Aadhaar cards, effectively making sure that we cannot file our taxes by the end of the month unless we make this link? And if you don't file your taxes, you're officially breaking the law. And finally, while the Supreme Court has given the government the power to go ahead and make this rule, we respectfully ask the Supreme Court, there is also perhaps a right to privacy that needs to be considered. These are the questions we're asking this evening on the Urban Debate. Our phone lines are open. We're also going to try and answer as many of your questions as possible, because this affects every one of us. It affects every one of our bank accounts if our PAN cards are in question. Joining us on the show this evening, Sanjeev Singh is a spokesperson of the BJP. He's also a former co-convener of the BJP IT cell. Anupam Saraph is a former CIO of Pune City Information Technology Advisor to Manohar Parrikar in Goa. and has a case pending against Aadhaar in the Supreme Court. Vinod Jain is a tax expert and an economic analyst. We're glad to have him. Prasanna S, Delhi-based lawyer who has not gotten an Aadhaar card. We're going to find out why. Akash Jindal is an economist. Roongta is an investment advisor who will take us through what this means for our investments and our money. Ritesh Bhatia, cybersecurity expert. Swapnil Kothari is a very senior lawyer. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this conversation. I'm going to start with, of course, checking with Sanjeev Singh. Sanjeev Singh, what does this mean for those people who may be out of town or traveling or don't have the ability to link PAN and Aadhaar before this weekend on Monday morning? Will they still be able to use their bank accounts?
This particular move has been there since last many months now, and most of the people have already got their PAN and Aadhaar linked. And if you look at the options available, the department, income tax department, as well as UIDAI have provided very easy options. So you have got, you can link both these two by sending just a simple SMS. So we have tried to be proactively, try to make the task easier. And if you look at the larger perspective, why this was necessitated. So the government, the present government has been is very serious about eliminating various loopholes which exist, be it, related to multiple PAN cards which have come in existence. And, this is where our Aadhaar system, which is a very unique system worldwide, it has got an extensive and a very comprehensive deduplication mechanism, because of which multiple identity is almost impossible to create. And it has come to the notice, everybody knows this, that there were unscrupulous elements who have created multiple PAN cards, and they have been using this avenue to create and to vanish with money and hide their black money, ill-gotten funds, not paying taxes and all that thing. So all this money, where does it go? It all ends up, a significant part of it ends up financing the terror network, financing the Breaking India Forces network. So the government has been very particular on this aspect. We have worked out a comprehensive thing, and most of our citizens, my fellow Indians, have already got it linked. All
right. So let me point out, Sanjeev Singh is saying very clearly, that this is being done because we want to curb black money and we want to curb terror funding. To rebut a couple of points that you made, Mr. Singh, we tried this evening to link our PAN cards to our Aadhaar cards. The website is down. I think it's handling a lot of load that's coming in, and typical of a lot of government websites, it's never ready to handle the real load that it expects to hit it on the night before a deadline. So the website is down and it's not possible right now to make this link. Second point, there has been such ambiguity in communication from the government. If you're doing something so drastic, you should be very, very clear. Even the notification that has been put out by the government is open to so much speculation, because it says on the day, before the day, we don't know if 1st of July is the day that is the final deadline. 1st of July is the beginning, and after that you'll announce a new deadline, because no new deadline has been announced. Several other journalists have put out on their Twitter handles today that no, this is not the deadline, there'll be another deadline. Why be so ambiguous? And finally, if you're actually going to tell me that this is how you're going to stop black money, then I would like to know what happened to the Swiss bank accounts. Wouldn't that have been a faster, better way to bring money back into the country? Roongta, I'm not buying the terror funding angle, because I'm looking at it right now from a citizen's point of view. We have citizens who are panicking at this point. What happens on Monday morning if these two cards are not linked?
So I don't think anybody can defend the ambiguities that exist, and ambiguities do exist, as you have pointed out. But the point that I want to make clearly is that if you just restrict this debate to, say, income tax for the time being, as far as income tax is concerned, I mean, I am giving private data to the government. That's part of the law. Permanent account number itself is a unique identity. It is not the perfect unique identity. I think the whole world knows that there are PAN cards that have been created on fictitious names, and people have many PAN cards. So clearly, having a better unique identity that identifies at least uniqueness much better apart from the practical difficulties that you have pointed out, which should be taken care of, how can you have an objection to have a better unique identity, at least as far as income tax is concerned?
On the 20,
I mean, on other things,
on the
I take your point.
On the 25th of May, the police in Bangalore busted three, and since we're talking about, and I want to point out that Mr. Sanjeev Singh said that it is almost impossible to get a duplicate ID. The police in Bangalore city busted 3 Pakistani nationals who had bought Aadhaar cards for 100 rupees each. But so let's not say that this is a foolproof system.
Did they get two? You can't get 2 identities with the same biometrics.
All right. Let me ask Ritesh Bhatia. Ritesh Bhatia is the expert here. Ritesh Bhatia is the expert. Can you get 2 Aadhaar cards? Is the system safe? Is our data safe? What is the argument, Ritesh Bhatia?
As far as the biometrics are concerned, no, you can't get 2. That is one thing. When you're asking, are the systems safe? So, we all know death, taxes and hacking of technology. This is inevitable. So it's not like that that this will never happen. No, we have an infrastructure. As I said earlier also, like the infrastructure may be rock solid, but what about the entire network? That is pretty fragile. From the bank to the mobile operator to the Aadhaar database and getting back that entire, and in cases of poor network, in cases of poor internet or mobile connectivity, there is where all the lags are happening, and that is where all the problems will happen. Moreover, we are going to have a lot more identity thefts. I have been personally seeing this. I've been handling certain cases also where people are now calling up not for OTP. Earlier they were calling up for OTP, the scamsters. Now they're calling for Aadhaar number. Why? Because they want to open bank accounts in fictitious names.
So it's not a foolproof system. And I also want to point out that there were various articles that were written about Aadhaar cards with the same details in 2 different photographs. And Ritesh, my question to you is, we've also seen that case where someone got an Aadhaar card for a dog. And how does the dog have fingerprints or retina scans? How did that happen? So this is not a foolproof system. And there is a certain level of discomfort with the way the government is making it compulsory. I want to go to Vinod Jain. Vinod Jain, I don't, Harsh Roongta said, let's limit this conversation to just tax. I don't want to limit it to just tax because our PAN card is linked to every financial transaction. And the Supreme Court has said that if the PAN card is required for our day-to-day existence. So how can this be just about taxes? What happens if my PAN card tomorrow is invalid? How will it affect my life?
No, I don't think PAN is going to become invalid as such, and it's from tomorrow morning or maybe from Monday morning or Tuesday you're not able to draw money from your bank account. I don't think that is going to happen out of this notification. What the government is actually trying to do is trying to avoid duplicacies. There are duplicate PAN cards, so same person cannot have 2 Aadhaar in any case. That is very clear. And if Aadhaar cards are linked with PAN cards, automatically duplications will go and the bogus PAN cards can be deactivated. I think that is the move which the government is trying to do. It does not mean that the government has kept a deadline, so nothing can be done later thereafter. So those who have not linked it by 30th June or maybe 1st of July are actually advised to maybe do it on 2nd July or maybe 5th July or 10th July. Heavens are not going to fall. I think it is not going to impact, because PAN number is primarily related to the income tax department. Aadhaar, of course, has come as a very good means to eradicate duplicate identities. So those people, I think, will be linked, and ultimately all this will be linked with various financial transactions. I think that is the idea, so that those who are using false PAN cards or maybe using one Aadhaar card and using PAN card elsewhere, different names, etc., all that will go away. So that will facilitate the process of the government to actually do data analysis and find out where people are actually misusing the data and misusing the process. But I don't think it should be scaled up to say that it is going to cause any problem in bank operations or others. PAN number is primarily for income tax department operation, and Aadhaar is primarily being linked only for the purpose of eradication of duplicacy.
All right, so then please someone explain to me what this means. And this is, I'm reading out of the press release of the Government of India, Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue, Central Board of Direct Taxes dated the 10th of June. It says that in case of non-intimation of Aadhaar, the PAN allotted to the person shall be deemed to be invalid from the date notified by the central government. So what does it mean when we say the PAN allotted to a person will be deemed invalid?
I will explain you. This is the purpose is primarily for the purpose of filing income tax return. You know, you have very rightly said that it is CBDT who has issued these guidelines, and they say primarily to really see that within time, for the purpose of filing income tax return, you will not be able to use this PAN unless you actually link it with Aadhaar. That I think Honorable Supreme Court has also permitted after understanding all the aspects. Once the Honorable Supreme Court has done it, I don't think we need to really question this decision. The highest authority has already examined it, and I think all the citizens, I'll advise, should really cooperate and get their PAN numbers linked with their Aadhaar card. It is so simple. Linking means only the two numbers need to be put in one box and another box, and they get automatically say link and they get linked. And everywhere it will become easier for the government to link the two and file income tax return. Once you file income tax return, same data.
Let me bring in Anupam Saraph, who disagrees. Anupam Saraph, if it's that easy, if it's that simple, what problem do you have with it?
Pardon?
Yeah, there are lots of problems I have with this. Firstly, let me clear some misconceptions. The first is that, many people actually got their Aadhaar based on a PAN card. So it is extremely stupid to say that you need to link back your Aadhaar to your PAN card in order to clean up the database of PAN cards. Second is that the government in the parliament just in April 2016 indicated that there are just 11.5 lakh duplicate PANs in the entire country. It also said that there are only 509 fake PAN cards in the country. Simultaneously, the CBDT invested in software in order to clear off these duplicates and track them. So it's not even a year, and there is no white paper, there is no indication in terms of what happened to this software, in terms of its use to detect any more duplicates or any more fake PAN cards. And we are suddenly moving to yet a new solution. This is something like, changing the relationship of the citizen with the state. And I think that is fundamentally very, very disturbing in terms of what is happening. In demonetization, overnight, rupees 500 and rupees 1000 suddenly had no value. Now suddenly, your PAN card has no value. Suddenly, December 31st, your bank accounts will have no value. So if we are simply going to say that the state is going to devalue the citizen, and the citizens are not going to be taken into any confidence about what has been accomplished by all these previous moves in terms of clearing black money, I think we are simply undermining the citizen in the state, and we are changing the relationship of the state and the citizen. And I think this is the most disturbing aspect of all of these moves.
No, but here's the simple question that Mr. Roongta asked, which I'm going to put forward to the panel. Anyone who wants to answer it, he said, you've already provided all of your data to the government. What is the problem with providing this one more piece of data? The government already has access to all of your data, including your phone records and your bank records and your IT returns. What will one piece of data make as a difference? Akash Jindal, your hand went up. Are you also hesitant to link your PAN card and your Aadhaar card?
No, I am not at all hesitant. Rather, what I would suggest, my friends, is why shouldn't we cooperate with the government? Now, in case there are some leakages in the PAN card system, in case there's a possibility of some people having duplicate PAN cards, which we know, if the government wants to do something, should we create obstacles or should we help and support the government in doing that? We all know that one person can't have two Aadhaars. And look, we are focusing only on income tax. I have very important point, which I think my co-panelists would agree to. If we link our PAN and Aadhaar, corruption would also be eradicated, because what happens is, if somebody is earning bribery 25 lakhs, 30 lakhs rupees in a year, what does he do with that? Beyond 2 lakhs, he can't transact in cash. Beyond 50,000, because of the Aadhaar mechanism, in case he transacts in cash, again it would be recorded. So the corruption money or the bribery money would become useless. This is a very important point. And let me tell you, I deal with a lot of multinationals. I deal with a lot of people who want to invest in India, foreign direct investors. They tell me that if corruption is eradicated from the system, our GDP can grow at least by 2%. Or on a larger perspective, think what's the difference between India and a country like US.
Indians are acting as CEOs of top US companies, Fortune 500 companies.
Okay, we're digressing. Swapnil Kothari,
what I'm saying is, why shouldn't we cooperate?
Why shouldn't we cooperate? Okay, so that's your point. That's your point.
If the government is asking us to combine these two, shouldn't we cooperate with the government in case the target is to eradicate black money and corruption? This is my request to all the panelists. Why should we create obstacles in case the government wants to do something?
Fair enough. We heard your point. I just want to bring in the two voices who haven't spoken yet. Swapnil Kothari, the Supreme Court is still hearing. There's a senior bench still hearing the case on the right to privacy and whether or not Aadhaar in any way violates that right to privacy. Do you think perhaps this could have waited until then? Or obviously the government is trying to catch this cycle of the IT returns, which is going to be filed this month. Where do you stand on the linking of PAN and Aadhaar?
Well, I disagree with this linking for the simple reason that the government seems to be in a tearing hurry. Now, first of all, I think I would like to, for the benefit of the viewers and for the benefit of the panelists here, would try to tell you the meaning and the import of the Aadhaar Act. The Aadhaar Act came into force in September 2016. The whole purpose, as per the nomenclature of the Act, was for facilitation of subsidies so that the subsidies reach the citizenry who deserve those subsidies appropriately, and that's where the Supreme Court made it mandatory initially to begin with. Now, thereafter, the Supreme Court started making it mandatory, for the PAN cards, for the simple reason that Section 139AA of the Income Tax Act was brought into force to ensure that no such corruption exists, as pointed out by some of the panelists. But the very root of this is the Aadhaar Act. The Aadhaar Act does not make procurement of the Aadhaar card mandatory at all in the first place. So anything that ensues thereafter, barring the subsidies aspect, which the Supreme Court in its infinite wisdom has given the appropriate reasons for it, does not make anything mandatory, or the centre cannot do so. Now, what the centre has done by this notification is that on Tuesday, when the Supreme Court bench heard this aspect, they said that you are free to legislate. Now, as far as that aspect is concerned, but then the Supreme Court also has its constitution bench, which is going to hear the right to privacy aspect, which is a fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution. So any other notification, anything else that follows from the government would always be tested under the umbrella of that fundamental right. Now, what that bench, I think it will be a bench of 5 judges from what I understand. Right. So that's and there is one more aspect which I would like to point out for the benefit of the panelists and the viewers both, is that there is something called as a judicial discipline. Now, that has been established by a 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court. Just one second. The judicial discipline means that if a lower court of 2 bench judges have given up a particular decision, then the 5-judge bench can overrule it. But if a 5-judge bench decision is there, then the 2-judge bench cannot do so unless and until it has got very imperative reasons to do so.
So you're saying basically, put simply, that there is a 5-judge bench that is hearing the right to privacy based, within the Aadhaar Act, right, and their decision will supersede any decision we've had so far.
Yeah, assuming that they say that this, these notifications transgress and violate the right to privacy and Article 14 also, because here then again there is a distinction that is drawn from the people who have the Aadhaar cards and who don't have the Aadhaar cards.
Right, so let me take this to Prasanna. Let me take it to Prasanna, who joins us in Noida, who has not gotten an Aadhaar card. He's keeping himself off the grid. Why, Prasanna?
So we need to understand what is the reason that that Supreme Court has reiterated some 6 times, no less than 6 times, that Aadhaar shall be purely voluntary. Right? Even on the 9th of June, when they gave the judgment upholding 139AA and partially staying the proviso to Article 139AA2, right? We need to understand, normally courts do not stay legislative provisions, right? They may stay notifications that are issued, circulars that are issued, because they are subordinate legislation. The reason why court has time and again reiterated that Aadhaar shall be voluntary is because there's a whole gamut of issues that are pending adjudication before it. Right? It is not just the right to privacy. There is right to privacy. There is the right to personal security. There is the right to human dignity, the relationship between state and the citizen, national security concerns, whether Aadhaar Act could have been and should have been passed as a money bill. All of these are before the Supreme Court. And let me remind people here that the government has not been able to defend Aadhaar before the Supreme Court without invoking melodramatic, anachronic and absurd arguments, saying that in 2015 they came to the Supreme Court, the highest constitutional court, and said the Indians do not have a constitutional right to privacy. right? And again in 2017, government has had to defend Aadhaar only by saying people do not have rights over their bodies, right? Without invoking these dramatic arguments, the government has not been able to defend the project before the highest constitutional court of the land, right? And despite that, the Supreme Court has given some leeway for the government to implement their, whatever they want with Aadhaar, PAN, etc. But government should take it in the spirit. You should not make the entire adjudicatory process osseous.
All right, let me just...
Why don't you go to the Supreme Court as an intervener in this matter, sir? I would really appreciate if you do so. You've been almost convincing as a lawyer. I don't know whether you have a law degree, but you've been very good at this. So please...
I'm a lawyer. I've appeared for some of the petitioners before the Supreme Court. Thank you, sir.
All right. So let me bring in voices. Our phones are ringing right now. Our phone lines are open. Guru Prasad is on the phone line from Mumbai, and this is to rebut the fact that it's easy. All you have to do is key in your number. Guru Prasad, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have been trying to link my Aadhaar card with my PAN card.
Yes.
And I have been to the enrollment center. First, initially it said that my name, date of birth not matching. It doesn't specify what exactly. It's a standard thing which says the name / date of birth not matching. Then I went to the enrollment center, made whatever changes I thought was there between the Aadhaar card and the PAN card.
Right.
But subsequently, after coming back, I tried and I'm getting the same result. It says the name is not matching. I'm at my wit's end. I really don't know what could be wrong.
Yeah, and if Guru Prasad doesn't manage to make this link by the end of the month, he will be a criminal because he wouldn't have filed his taxes, and not filing your taxes breaks the law. Of course, Harsh Roongta is going to tell me that I'm exaggerating, but first let me bring
Yes, absolutely. I was about to say that. Where does this come from?
One more voice. Jacob Roy of Kerala, go ahead.
Yeah, see, this is the problem is with that of my wife's Aadhaar card and the PAN card.
Yes.
There is actually a difference in the year of birth. So it's not matching. So that's why I'm not able to kind of, link my wife's Aadhaar card with the PAN card. So I'm just one day to go. I am quite worried as how I am going to get this done in 24 hours.
Right, and we'll come to you as to why you shouldn't be worried, because Harsh Roongta still shaking his head. But Tenzin is on the phone line from Delhi. Tenzin, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Foremost, thank you very much, in fact, for giving this opportunity. And yes, as a citizen, although you have a distinguished panel with you, but then as a citizen, I would like to just share a bit of my experience. First of all, as a citizen, I don't know why the government, the Aadhaar linkage, okay, we do consideration of its benefit, but why it seems like a knee-jerk response. Why they are in so hurry? By July something, your PAN card will become invalid. By December 31st, your bank account is going to go away from it. Because I have a very bad experience when I was a student, like maybe a year or so. Like even the students' fellowship, the scholarships are being kept on hold unless you have Aadhaar. So out of the blue, they will say you have to show up your Aadhaar, otherwise your fellowships and the scholarships, everything is going to get on hold. So basically, as a citizen, it seems everything is in so hurry. Why don't the government as such give some time for the citizen, just to make things connected, make the ground system in check, and then you can start with all the process.
Absolutely. So, and these are the things that are mandatory, that to quote your Aadhaar number on your PAN card, your mobile phone, your bank account, your driving license, your provident fund, and we've also, like he told us, LKG, lower KG admissions are now asking for Aadhaars. So you have to have your child, fingerprinted and retina scanned for the government at the age of 2 or 3 in order to get a school admission. But please, Harsh Roongta, tell us why we are overreacting.
So I am going to restrict my discussion around tax.
No, but why? You are an investment advisor. Look at all of our investments that have to use the PAN card.
Absolutely.
And all the KYC, which was so painful that we went through.
The point that I am trying to make is that is not going to get affected come July 1. And there is a reason behind the July 1 deadline. The income tax deadline is July 31st. obviously, even if you are not able to link it by July 1, and there are clearly problems. I mean, I'm not here to defend the government for having those problems. And clearly they should have less of those problems, they should solve those problems. But the point, I think the bigger point, everything that we are discussing are operational problems. The bigger point is it good to have a unique ID, at least as far as income tax is concerned? Is it good to link all, is it good for the country for us having a unique identity? We already have one. So permanent account number is a unique ID, except that it is flawed. Maybe Aadhaar has its flaws, but it has less flaws than the permanent account number. My simple submission is life is not going to collapse on July 1 if you have not linked your Aadhaar to your PAN number. You will be able to link it maybe 10 days later, 15 days later.
You assume that life is not going to collapse. But isn't this Roongta, yes or no answer?
Yes.
On the 15th and the 16th of June, there was a notification put out that said all existing bank account holders have to submit their Aadhaar to their banks before the 31st of December, failing which their accounts will become invalid. And I remember we had a lot of NRIs who said, I'm not going to travel to India by that time. What happens to my... Why create this much confusion? Please tell me. Why threaten
NRIs are not required to link their Aadhaar? That notification doesn't say, because NRIs cannot get Aadhaar. NRIs cannot get Aadhaar.
Circling back to why create so much confusion?
But they have not created.
Why does it?
So
there is confusion.
That notification,
none of these notifications
that
are
notification does not say that NRIs have to link their Aadhaar. NRIs cannot get Aadhaar. The notification only says those who are eligible to get Aadhaar, they have to link.
So
NRIs are not eligible to get Aadhaar. So where is the question of NRIs linking Aadhaar?
I will ask you. I will ask.
See, if the PAN is not linked to Aadhaar on 1st of July, PAN is not going to become invalid with due regards. What I want to say
with due regards to the Government of India, the Ministry of Finance, the Department of Revenue and the Central Board of Direct Taxes that has said so in this piece of paper. Who's going to clarify? It did not say here at the bottom of this page, please contact Akash Jindal, he will clarify this for you.
Please allow me to interpret that. As a citizen of this country, at least I have a right to interpret any government circular. According to the best of my interpretation, at least if nobody else a citizen of India, what it means is that I would not be eligible to file a return. But that doesn't mean
I understand that Akash Jindal, but my question is why release a circular that is subject to interpretation to every citizen of the country? You are on my show tonight, a noted economist, interpreting this notice to the best of your ability. If I pass this down the table, Swapnil Kothari will have a different interpretation. Ritesh Bhatia will have a different interpretation. I have a different. I'm reading it out. In case of non-intimation of Aadhaar, your PAN will be invalid. I'm reading this other thing. In case you don't link your Aadhaar to your bank account, your bank account will become invalid. What sort of threats are these? Why scare your citizens? You realize that a very small portion of the citizens of this country actually read English. Now imagine this translated into the hundreds of languages in our country where people actually try to now figure out whether they should be linking, not linking, whether it's going to be invalid, not invalid, what does it mean? I've grown up now in a system as an investor where every time I moved money, I had to quote my PAN. I'm going to assume if my PAN is invalid, it's going to matter.
You can still quote your PAN.
The takeaway from the discussion is, I'll tell you, the takeaway from the discussion is that we should request the income tax to come out with FAQs. We can request them, or the takeaway from this discussion could be they could come out with frequently asked questions where all the queries which are cropping up in your mind or in the mind of my colleagues, the other guests, that could be clarified. But as far as bank is concerned, one of the callers said 31st December, there is sufficient time and you don't have to go online for that. Offline also, you can just courier it to your bank. You can just walk into any of the branches of your bank, self-attest it and hand it over. And 6 months, more than 6 months is, I think, a sufficient time. What again I would say up to
okay,
the
all right. I understand what you're saying. You're saying 6 months. Let me just answer the question. One second. Akash Jindal, we heard you out. We heard you out. Let me just answer the question that Harsh Roongta pointed out, that NRIs are not required to, NRIs are not entitled to Aadhaar and hence not required. Harsh Roongta, NRI, the term NRI is defined by the income tax rules, right? It depends on you spending half the year overseas for one reason or the other. Now, let me also point out to you, someone who might have moved overseas this year, if they move overseas this year, in order to tell their bank accounts that, listen, I am now an NRI and you have to shift this to an NRE account, the bank asks them to go overseas and then may give us your data of where you're going to be living and where you're going to be actually listing. And then you have to come back and actually, if you don't have a branch, you have to give them data, KYC all over again. A lot of people, now I know you believe we live in a beautiful system where the income tax department is full of angels who are constantly helping us with our problems, but that is not the case. It is tremendously complicated. You cannot complicate it further is my pure submission at this point.
I don't think anybody in his right mind would say that income tax is full of angels. But I mean, jokes apart, the point that you made about you becoming an NRI first and then informing a bank, absolutely, but you don't have to come back to India to do that. You just have to inform them through courier, through post, and then they will convert your account into an NRO account. This is for sure. I mean, this is done. I mean, we have seen it being done. So this is not a matter of reading a document. This is a matter of actually knowing it. It happens. Yes. So the point is, NRIs are not required. In fact, they're not allowed to have an Aadhaar. And in fact, even foreigners are allowed to have an Aadhaar as long as they've been resident in India.
Okay.
So I think Aadhaar, I think
anybody who's overseas, you need to make sure that your bank account no longer holds a resident status on it. However you want to change it, you should change it. Swapnil, you had a point to make. Go ahead.
Yes, Faye, I think one of the essential aspects, I think, and I'm glad that you've brought this debate, at least a couple of times, for the simple reason that, I find that, the entire adversarial system of our, I'll explain what the adversarial system means, that everybody is presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. Now, all these kind of notifications which are coming out, the bank accounts, linking it to bank accounts, linking it to PAN cards, etc., presumes that I'm either, and, the 15th July, the June notification was under the PMLA rules. So either I'm a money launderer, or I'm a corrupt man, or I am a person who's going to avoid, or rather evade income tax. So I'm considered as a potential defaulter in the first place to begin with. And that's how, it's not I who is creating obstacles, sir, as to one of the panelists who pointed out, and not cooperating with the government. It's the government which is creating obstacles in my fundamental rights here, because it doesn't have, first of all, the appropriate data protection laws. There are several leakages which are going around. They have not been able to plug that. Secondly, they are coming out with these dubious notifications subject to various interpretations depending on which side of the bed I get out from, until the Supreme Court comes out with a really reasoned order, which I'm sure it will in some in a couple of weeks or month maybe. I think the government needs to walk a little slow.
Let me bring Sanjeev Singh in. Sanjeev Singh of the BJP. Do you want to respond to that? Why are the notifications so confusing? Why are we causing so much confusion in the system right now?
There is not, I won't call it that there is so many confusion which is there. See, the point is, let's discuss things on fact. What are the facts? The fact is that almost every adult in India has got an Aadhaar card today. Last 3 years, around 70 crore Aadhaar cards have been issued. Secondly, every taxpayer has a PAN card. Now, if you do not have discrepancy between the data contained on your PAN card and the Aadhaar card, then there is no problem at all in linking these two things. For people who have waited for the last minute, I understand there would be some inconvenience which is there, but that doesn't render them a criminal on Monday. The point is, you can file your return till 31st July, and the government is always very, a sensitive government. If people are getting inconvenienced, we will always make effort to eliminate that inconvenience. So when I'm speaking about this aspect, what I'm trying to emphasize is that most of the income taxpayer who do not have a mismatch between their PAN and Aadhaar will not find any issue at all in linking these two, other than their, if they have got some apprehension with regard to the privacy thing and all that. Now, when you are talking about the privacy thing, every income taxpayer would be holding a smartphone. Now, if you are holding a smartphone, Most people do not realize that everything pertaining to their demographics, their usage, their places where they frequent, everything is available to foreign entities, companies who app you install. So, I mean, so far as the privacy thing is concerned, yes, I agree. There should be a comprehensive right to privacy and a legislation should be there that we can look at. But so far as this aspect is concerned, anybody who uses
okay, that's a fair point. I'm going to take this point to Ritesh Bhatia, who's a cybersecurity expert. Ritesh Bhatia, it's a fair point, and which is being brought up here by Sanjeev Singh. People who are willing to give their data to Facebook and to Google and to anybody else, when they scroll and say, yes, I agree, why are they not willing to share that data then with the government? And my other question for you is, of course, there are a lot of cyber criminals out there, and this is biometric data. This is not password protected. So once it's compromised, it's not like I can change the password and protect it once more. Once it's compromised, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, Sanjeev ji, firstly, I agree with Swapnil also that why are we like hurrying, in everything? And, now the GST rollout is there. Now again, this particular thing is also there. The PAN and Aadhaar thing is also coming. Now when you're quoting Google and Facebook, now if they are doing something illegal, I would say this is like breach of privacy. Does that mean that even we should do that? Our privacy draft, the data privacy draft is there in the parliament since like many years. There is no movement on it. I think we should have first brought that into picture, and then we should have gone ahead with something like this Aadhaar and other kind of things, which was earlier not compulsory. Now, if you're making it compulsory, then we need to make sure that our privacy is protected. You cannot tell us about Google and Facebook. It is the ignorance of the people. At times, now you look at certain good banks, the real good banks, they don't want access to your camera or your contacts or your SMS. Now, all these things, there is a mission behind these giants as to why they want our data. And as I told you last time also, I mean, data is the new oil. Now, coming to this...
So my question is, does Google or Facebook have access to my bank account? Does Google or Facebook have access to, to sensitive financial data?
They have.
Okay.
They have access to everything. But is that justified? Are they telling you on your face? They are saying, no, we don't have access to it. But behind the scenes, we as cybersecurity fraternity, we know what's happening.
So then the question is, if you're comfortable sharing your data with Google and Facebook, why aren't you comfortable sharing it? You're not comfortable.
Honestly, we are not comfortable. Most of us.
Let me bring Prasanna in one more time. Prasanna had his hand up. Prasanna, you wanted to respond to that? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, we've been talking about a unique identity for some time. We need to understand that even in the title of the authority that has been created, it is Unique Identification Authority of India. It has got nothing to do with identity. In fact, it turns the concept of identity on its head, where it is no longer your right, but you are subject to the power and control of an all-encompassing state, and which is what is identifying you. You are not who you are, but you are what the database says who you are. For instance, I mean, we've known that, I mean, the government has filed affidavits in the court saying that 80 million people have been deleted, 80 million enrollments have been deleted as duplicate, right? And how does this deletion happen? Using an algorithm, a proprietary algorithm that is not open to us, etc., etc. 80 million people, which is more than the population of Bihar. Right, so we have a system that has not just flawed, it's not only flawed but simply wrong, which is why Supreme Court, once again it has said it 6 times that you cannot make it mandatory, and you still want to go ahead and increase the temperature on the boiling frog, right? So with every, which is what is happening with every. There is PAN being linked, there is a bank account being linked, so which is basically increasing temperature on a boiling frog. That is what is
that's a fair point. The phone lines are still ringing. Let me bring in some more voices.
What I want to raise is, here,
it's very necessary.
Black money to be eradicated out of the system, corruption to be eradicated out of the system. If there are certain loopholes in the system, yes, we can plug those loopholes in the system. but throwing the baby along with the baby water, would it be a proper way? Just fighting with the government for everything. Yes, there are issues, but I firmly believe
misusing the PAN system and discounting the PAN
again. One second. Let me just bring in viewers. We have people on the phone line who've been waiting for a while. We'll answer their questions. Right. Okay. Akash Jindal. All right. Rajendra Jain. Rajendra is on the phone line from Mumbai. Rajendra, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
You see, I have applied for my Aadhaar card in 2012 together with my family members. Other 4 members have got their Aadhaar, and I am still waiting since 2012.
Okay. You know? Have you gotten back in touch with the authority?
I got in touch with them on emails, and I did not get any satisfactory answer from the department. Finally, when I checked the status of my previous enrollment, now the website tells me no record found. So finally, I gave up on them, and I went and enrolled myself again on 15th of June here in Mumbai.
Yes.
Here in Mumbai. And now, after 13 days, when I check for status of my Aadhaar card on their website, it tells me that the application has been rejected either due to process error or data error. So I called up the center, and they tells me that thousands of Aadhaar applications have been rejected recently because their server has some problem or they are upgrading. So he told me to come back on 2nd or 3rd of July for re-enrollment. Now, if this is the ground situation there, on what basis the government is going and linking all this Aadhaar with PAN and all, I fail to understand. And why this is not being addressed by any panelists? Why are they not talking about the people who have not got their Aadhaar cards?
Absolutely. Sharad is on the phone line from Mumbai. Sharad, go ahead. Sharad.
Yeah, hi. My father is 84. He has been filing his income tax returns on the same PAN number ever since the PAN numbers have been issued.
Yes.
4 months back, we have found out that the existing PAN number is not valid and a new PAN number has been issued to him.
Why is
I have been following up with the income tax department for the last 4 months and they have not been able to set back the old PAN number to him.
Right.
If from the 1st onwards, I have to link the PAN name and Aadhaar, what does he do now?
What do you do now? N. Tyagarajan on the phone line from Delhi. Mr. Tyagarajan, go ahead.
Yeah. See, I am a South Indian. We have the habit of writing our father's name as initial.
Yes.
First letter, then our full name. I am N. Tyagarajan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So my bank account, my Aadhaar card, even my passport shows my name as N. Tyagarajan. Only this income tax PAN card doesn't allow any abbreviation. Does the government, why should I change my name, the way of writing my name, merely for PAN card purpose? Does the government has any authority to ask me to change my name?
So, but is your name different, Mr. Tyagarajan, now on your PAN card and your Aadhaar card?
Yeah, in PAN card, it shows as N. Tyagarajan. But originally, in records, it is Nagarajan, my father's name in full name.
Tyagarajan. All right. So this is going to be a problem when people attempt to match the two. Also, I've had a lot of people write to me saying people with apostrophes or any special characters in their names, it doesn't get accepted by the database. So if your name is D'Souza or De Silva or anything of that sort and you have an apostrophe, you're going to have to drop that apostrophe because it won't be accepted by the system. Anupam Saraph, again, I'm going to come back to the same thing. Let's accept that the system is faulty, but like everyone's been saying, if you're comfortable sharing this data, it's already with the government, what's the problem now going further? Anupam Saraph.
I think the big assumption is that linking the Aadhaar to the PAN serves any purpose and the Aadhaar does not have any problems. And I think firstly, we are sweeping the entire issue of linking the Aadhaar with financial instruments completely beneath the carpet. Because I have written and researched for the last 7 years and pointed out repeatedly that linking the Aadhaar to bank accounts as well as PAN cards is going to increase money laundering. It's actually going to increase crime. And it's going to... So there are a number of mechanisms which are too detailed to elaborate on the short 2-minute answer. I have written articles which people are free to Google and go and read them. I have pointed this out to the highest authorities in the country repeatedly. They have not been addressed. Aadhaar-enabled banking systems are unsafe. The country has been using RBI's NEFT, which has been tried for decades, and there is no reason to switch over to an Aadhaar-enabled payment system. So it's important that Aadhaar is not linked to financial instruments. If money has to be transferred from the Consolidated Fund of India, it should be transferred through NEFT, as has been done for pensions, for benefits, before the Aadhaar-enabled payment systems came into being. So it is extremely absurd that we are pressing everybody to go into Aadhaar-linked bank accounts and twisting their arms to do so, so that the Aadhaar-enabled payment systems run by a non-government company can come to be used. So I think these matters are very serious. They have been swept under the carpet. They have not been, investigated, and the government owes an explanation on this. It needs to investigate on the safety of all of these instruments.
Yes.
You are dealing with the entire Consolidated Fund of India. How can you shift from an RBI-based NEFT to an Aadhaar-enabled payment system? How can you switch every financial transaction? Aadhaar-enabled payment systems are of high risk. They are not auditable, and they are not run by the government.
Can anyone on the panel confirm or agree with the fact that Aadhaar-based systems are high risk? Anyone wants to come in on that?
Absolutely. They are
So I think Vinod Jain here, chartered accountant. The system is fully foolproof. Okay. There is no risk in the system actually. What is happening is the entire database is stored in a very, very safe manner with the government. And just by sharing the number, you're not sharing any data, in fact. It is completely wrong to say that data is being shared. What you're sharing is only a number. And once you actually try and use that number, I think it is verified, it is automatically verified, that number is verifiable from the central database. You may agree to disagree, I think that is a different thing. But the database is very safe. And
but this is a good question. This is a good question. If someone gets hold of my Aadhaar number, and I'm giving it, let's remember, we're handing it out when you get a mobile phone connection. Now they ask for your Aadhaar number. They're asking for your Aadhaar number everywhere. If someone gets hold of your Aadhaar number, what can they do with that information?
Identity theft.
Yes, identity theft. Explain that to me. What does that mean?
He cannot go identity theft because every time.
So Ritesh is
let me announce my Aadhaar number. I don't know if that's legal.
No, please don't.
I'm willing to announce my Aadhaar number on television.
No, please don't announce your Aadhaar number on television. Ritesh, please explain to us as a cybersecurity expert what you mean by identity theft.
As I told you, identity theft means what? Now, if I want to open up a fictitious bank account, I need an Aadhaar number. I need an Aadhaar card as such, an Aadhaar number as such. And what is happening is, if I get the Aadhaar number of somebody, and I already have the details. See, like Mr. Roongta is saying, it's not easy to get an OTP. He's not going to give it out. But just imagine the kind of these wishing calls that we are getting, wherein we are forced to give our OTP number. Forced in the sense there's a psychological pressure. At that time you give it out.
That would happen to any number. That would happen to any number.
Exactly.
Why is that unique to Aadhaar?
No.
Why is that unique to Aadhaar?
Why increasing the risk of that?
How?
OTP number. How?
Why is it increased risk?
Do we have any compliances? Do we have any regulations? Do we have any law? Where do we go? Where do we go?
So let me point out to you that if your Aadhaar is compromised and you want to complain in any way, you cannot. You cannot complain about your own Aadhaar card. The UIDAI, the authority, is the only one who has the authority to officially file a complaint about Aadhaar. That is where it stands today. Swapnil, very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly, Faye. My basic point is, the panel is focusing more on the operational aspects as to about the apostrophes, etc., and what happens if, what if we, give that. My point is very simple, that the government's job is to govern, not to browbeat. It is issuing diktats in the form of notifications, and it is in my respectful submission, I state that this is a violation of my fundamental right. I beseech the Supreme Court simply that you have given the right to the government to legislate. It has done its legislation. Now, please, when a 5-judge bench sits over this issue of right to privacy, dignity, etc., then it tells the government that the fundamental rights cannot be eviscerated by the notifications at all, and it stops and arrests this gradual evisceration.
Right. All right. We've run out of time on this show. As much confusion at the end of the show as we had at the beginning, but here's what we have as truths. There's notification after notification that keeps coming out. There's one that says our PANs will be invalid after the 1st of July. There's another one that says that our bank accounts will be invalid after the 31st of December. For some reason, we want to ruin New Year's Eve this year. My submission to the government is simply this. Please be clearer when you're talking about things like our bank accounts and our PAN cards and our Aadhaar cards, because this affects every single citizen. And this sort of ambiguity of where you're trying to scare people into doing things, and tax experts, and my team has spent the entire evening trying to figure this out. Tax experts generally agree that the government cannot make your PAN card invalid. It's not possible. They have to do a separate notification to do that. If that is the case, why scare us? Are you trying to spook the citizens into doing something when by calling boo and calling the boogeyman that you don't really have the ability to do? This sort of behavior is really peculiar. Also, it is true that in Delhi, in Bangalore and in several other parts of the country, people are getting phone calls saying, I'm calling from your bank, I need your Aadhaar card. 2 more questions and you realize that person is a fake, which means that there is already some sort of criminal going around trying to amass Aadhaar numbers over the phone. So they must be doing it for a reason. Why are they trying to get these numbers if these numbers are of no use? They're not calling anymore to find out what your credit card number is or what your password is. They're calling to ask you what your Aadhaar number is. And they say very clearly that I'm calling from SBI Bank or from so-and-so bank. Please tell me what your Aadhaar number is. If you're getting such a phone call, please ask them 2 more questions. Which branch? Who are you? Can you give me your employee ID? You'll notice the person will hang up on you. So there's something wrong. We shouldn't be in a hurry to outrun the bench of the Supreme Court that's examining the issue. We shouldn't be in a hurry to outrun any sort of laws that should be brought into place to sort of protect our privacy. And please don't be in a hurry to outrun the people who are trying to make the system safe. Make it safe first, and then we will all voluntarily make that link. Also, for the benefit of citizens who live overseas and those who don't understand your complicated notices in English, please make your notices more clearer. Thanks for watching.